Mark Logan, thanks so much for talking to us. Now, any MP defecting is a really big moment, particularly in the middle of an election campaign. Why have you done this?
Well, I just feel that it's the right thing for both my constituency in Bolton North East, but also for the country. As I referred to in the letter that I've just posted up on X very recently, is that when I think back to 1997 and whenever the Labour government came to the fore back then, there was a real sense of optimism, there was a sense of hope amongst people, there was a sense of being able to get things done. And I do think we're at this pivotal turning point again as we go into the general election on the 4th of July.
How long have you been in talks with Labour about this?
Well, it's something I've been thinking about for quite a long time.
How long?
Well, I mean, the whole time that I've been in Parliament, obviously it's something that, you know, I think... Quite often I have to, you know, consider what's the best thing for my constituency, best thing for the UK, what kind of sits with me best. And I think what I've discovered over probably the last 2.5 years, there was a colleague as well next door in Bury South, of course, crossed the floor to go to Labour, what was that, 2.5 years ago. And when that happened, there was a number of Labour MPs, the media, constituents, even friends would often come up to me and say, you know, when are you going to move across to Labour? Because maybe they felt as an outsider that some of the values that I hold perhaps fit better with the party.
And have you been offered anything from Labour?
No, not whatsoever. So I mean, the whole point of this was to make the decision today. Now that I'm not an MP, I've done soul searching for the last week and decided I'm not going to stand in the general election, nor am I, you know, standing or trying to find another seat for the Labour Party.
I just think what a lot of people are going to be thinking is you have a majority of less than 400. Are you basically scared of the fight?
No, not whatsoever, because I actually think in my constituency is that the election was still winnable. You know, if I was able to work there with volunteers and people across Bolton North East, and primarily Bolton North East is a very diverse community. We have a large part of my constituency feels very strongly about the issue of Gaza, and I've tried to be the voice for people in that community, in those communities over the last 7-8 months. I've been calling for an immediate ceasefire. I've been lobbying. You know, David Cameron as Foreign Secretary, the Prime Minister have made umpteen numbers of questions in the House of Commons, both written and oral. So I've been doing as much as possible for my constituents. But it just, like I said, it just came to the point where I felt that it was the right thing to do, was for me to stand down. Someone else can have a go at trying on the campaign. But more so than that is calling for people to really consider the Labour candidate who's Kirith Whistle come this election on the 4th of July.
I mean, just on Gaza, Labour have been criticised by some for not being tough enough with Israel. Some have praised David Cameron for being quite tough. Do you think Labour are the right party?
Well, I believe that if there is a Labour administration from the 4th, 5th of July, is that they have the right people there in the mix. I think they'll have the right intention. Also from their backbench and second bench MPs, I think there's enough people there that have an interest. They have a specialism when it comes to Middle Eastern politics. So I do think Labour are going to do things a bit different. It's an opportunity to show leadership. The UK can show leadership with other like-minded countries, with other middle powers or great powers, both in the region and traditional European, North American partners also. But there's a real opportunity if we can show leadership and move to having reconstruction that benefits the people of Gaza, and also making sure that Israel is secure and safe. OK,
I'm just hearing that there's some rumours going around that you've been lobbying Number 10 for a peerage. Is that right?
Absolutely not. So the whole thing,
so
obviously,
categorically deny that, yeah?
Well, absolutely, that's not what's been happening. For me, the decision today has been all about whether or not I'd be standing as a Conservative MP or backing Labour, and I've gone for the latter.
I mean, it's quite a turnaround, isn't it? These are your words. You called the PM smart, hardworking, a man of integrity. You backed him to be Prime Minister.
Yes.
It's an incredible turnaround, given that you say you were thinking about defecting.
I understand that. And I still think, as I said earlier on today, I think that the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, if he doesn't win going into this general election, is that he can leave office with his head held high, because I think all those things I said previously still stand. I do think he's a person of integrity. I think he is hardworking, but it's just a time for change. And it's a time for optimism from a new movement, and I believe that's what the Labour Party is offering.
Keir Starmer says he's a socialist. Are you a socialist?
Well, I mean, it depends who you ask, right? And I think the great thing with the Labour Party today is that it's a broad church, that it's incorporating people from the right of politics and also from the left of politics. So it depends. I think as people, depending on the issue, depending on your mood sometimes, depending on the part of your lifetime, I think that we all move around in that sort of political compass.
I guess you must think the party is moving to the right if it's attracting people like you.
Well, I think that the party has decided that it wants to govern. It has the ideas, it has the energy, and it's got a great team in place. I think a lot of people in the cabinet
do you think it's
and
moving
ministers.
To the right?
No, I think it's incorporating, as I said, a broad church from across the piece, and they're going into the 4th, 5th of July, hopefully winning, forming an administration and being able to do new things. Like obviously Labour have talked about having 40,000 GP appointments every week, also looking at recruiting more teachers into the education system. And I think those are all things that have to happen as soon as possible.
You're a Brexiteer, that's what's really interesting. I mean, do you think Labour is now the party of Brexit?
Well, I think the UK, obviously, since the vote happened in 2016 and thereafter, that we've moved on from those discussions almost a decade ago now when the vote happened around Brexit. And I think we deal with the environment that we have. It's very important. I think, actually, Labour, when it comes to power, if it does come to power, is going to be in the situation where it does have a lot of expertise and interest in furthering the UK's relations with European partners. And that's important when we're in a world and a climate where things are more, dark than ever. That they have been in recent decades, is that we work with like-minded countries and we work with countries on security, national security, to make sure that we deal with the challenges of today.
You seem very kind of comfortable and confident with your decision, but in your letter you said it took a bit of soul searching.
It did. It took time.
How painful was this as a decision to make?
Well, the difficult thing was obviously that the people locally in Bolton and also in the party, Conservative Party here at Westminster, that I'd got on and called friends and still do call friends, and those that have volunteered and helped out on campaigning, and where I've helped them campaign as well, is that's a very difficult thing to do because, like I said, since the snap election was called a week ago, that's all day, every day I've been toiling with this as what's the best thing to do. And, ultimately the choice that I've made isn't because I'm opposing any of those people that have helped me along the way, but it's more just the overall movement. And as I said, going back to 1997 and looking now in 2024, I do think Labour's going to offer people hope. They're going to offer opportunity, and I think that's a better politics to be in, not one of fear, one of hope. You're voting for something, not against something. And
what's next for you now if you're not going to stand?
Well, I've got a bit of time now to think through and try and pursue some outside interests. So we'll see what the next kind of few weeks and months hold.